Welcome to another episode of Culture8 Podcast, brought to you by Izini, your trusted partner in building thriving workplace cultures. Here we explore the intricate and dynamic world of organization culture, uncovering insights and strategies to help leaders and teams foster environments where people and businesses can grow together. Today we are talking with Kerry Siggins, President and CEO of StoneAge. Welcome to the podcast, Kerry. It's an honor to host you today.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you. So to begin with a little bit, please share what's exciting happening with StoneAge today.
Oh gosh, so many good things. So StoneAge, just to give a little context, we manufacture high pressure water jetting equipment. So think high tech squirt guns on steroids. And our products are used to clean anything really dirty, any industrial manufacturing facility. All the things that we use every day comes from a heavy industrial manufacturing facility. And all of that production equipment has to be cleaned. So whether that's the rubber in your tires or the gas in your car, or the plastic in your water bottle, we basically keep the supply chain running by helping plants stay running. So I've been running the company for almost 20 years now, and we're employee owned. And so we have been doing a lot of fun things around what we call the Own It mindset. And we're getting ready to kick off our theme of the year, which is better together under pressure. So one of our values, core values, is be a great teammate. And then, of course, we are, high pressure water. All of our products are used under pressure. And then we also want to weave resiliency in. 2025 was a tough year for a lot of people. And so I think that under pressure, right? Resilience is created when you're under pressure. And that's when you really grow and expand the most. And so I'm excited to kick off our theme of Better Together Under Pressure, which we're doing next week with a big company kickoff. So,
oh, fantastic! Congratulations, and
thank you.
I have great wishes for you and your team for 2026.
Thank you.
I love the word. Yes, resilience in pressure. It's actually really required in current environment for every organization and individuals as well. So
yes,
great theme. So before I take a deep dive into your views and beliefs about organizational culture, I would like to ask you about a question so that my audience can get to know you better.
Sure.
What was your very first job?
My very first job was babysitting. I hated it. I hated babysitting.
Okay.
But it was an easy thing for me to start doing when I was probably 10 years old. But I quickly started working for my grandfather. As soon as I was old enough, my grandfather had sporting goods stores in Colorado, which is where I'm from. And I always wanted to work in his stores. So when I was 12, he let me do things like count inventory and help customers. I couldn't run the cash registers, but that is really introduced me to entrepreneurialism and building a good work ethic and being part of a family business. And so even though my first job was babysitting where I got paid, my first real job was working for my grandfather as a clerk in his sporting goods stores.
That's a phenomenal story. I mean, can imagine a 12-year-old running being part of a business. It's pretty fascinating. I'm sure it was very cool. And Colorado is my favorite state in the US. So
me too. It's fabulous.
Awesome. So let's take a switch gears over here. If I was to talk about, and of course, I've looked at a lot of your posts. We are connected through LinkedIn. That's where I got to know you. I got to know the information that you share out there. And I see a lot of conversation about organizational culture. You love your people. You love the importance of people, and you try to practice that every time. Now, so if I was to ask you, what are the top 3 elements that define your organization's culture, and how are these elements influencing your company's success today?
Sure. So I think the first one is ownership. We have a culture of ownership. Being an employee-owned company, we take teaching people how to think and act like owners very serious. We have an ethos, an ecosystem around what we call the Own It mindset. And that is basically the behaviors and the values and the attributes that one possesses to be successful at StoneAge. So having a culture of ownership is at the top. I think we're a very collaborative, team-based culture. That's one of the things that people are surprised the most about when they come in. We talk about what collaboration looks like and try to explain it to people, but until they get in the company, they're like, I've never seen like teams collaborate. There's not all these siloed lines of, stay in your lane. People want to know your opinion from different departments. And so it's a highly collaborative, team-focused environment. And then we move fast. We are a fast paced company. We're disruptive. We're building disruptive technology
Right.
and we're making big moves in our industry. So even though sometimes it feels like we're moving slow and I want to move faster, we really do move fast as a company. I think those would be the things that would describe us and our culture is high performing, fast moving, ownership mindset, and very team oriented, collaborative.
I love it. So, I mean, I help organizations and employee engagement improvement plans. And I talk about all the time about certain things, few pillars about employee engagement, why it can increase. And collaboration is one part, power with the people. And the other one is the seat at the table, the ownership
Yes.
piece, the autonomy, the idea that you've given them certain responsibilities, and those responsibilities come with the authority to make decisions at that particular levels and stuff. So phenomenal. I think that you guys are going to do great.
Thank
I'm sure
you.
you already are.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
we've been at it for a long time and it
yes,
constantly evolves and
yes.
shifts and we continuously bring more clarity to what it means to be an owner at StoneAge. And yeah, there's still lots of improvement that we can make, but I'm really proud of the culture that we've created. I think it's dynamic, it's rewarding, and it's caring.
You named it, and organizational cultures really are dynamic. It's not
Yes.
something. There are obviously stable aspects of it, which are your values and beliefs. These are your stable parts of your organization, and of course, other aspects. The mental models are the ones which are your dynamic aspect. You will change based on new information, new environment, new insights that you organizations find themselves. What I really loved about what you said was about explaining what collaboration really means. So
Mhm.
that's really important. I mean, you tell these are our values, but if you don't tell them how these values or behaviors that we want to see from these, nobody's going to have, it's not going to come through into in their dreams. So great
Yeah,
stuff.
I think defining it is important. We've
Yes.
had where people come in and think they understand what collaboration looks like, and then they are taken by surprise. And so sometimes it hasn't worked because we've hired leaders or executives who want to stay in their lanes or want people to stay in their own lanes as well. And
Yeah.
so I've learned over the years that it's really important for us to define what collaboration means and what it looks like because sometimes it can be messy and there can be conflict that comes from it and that's okay. The good
Yes.
things can come from healthy conflict, but not
Yes.
everybody's comfortable with that. Not everybody's comfortable. Like, why is engineering coming in here and asking finance about these questions? Well, one, we're all owners. And two, you don't know where the next idea is going to come from or how to improve something. And when people understand how the company works and how systems work and can contribute to
Yes.
the growth of the company, it benefits everyone. It does take that kind of collaboration that we have at Stone Age requires people to put their egos aside
Yeah.
and really be curious about what others have to say because yeah, you don't know where your next best idea is going to come from.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, I keep talking about. So I'm an organizational culture consultant, right? So,
Yep.
when I talk about organizational culture improvement, I have few common themes of interventions that obviously is conflict resolution is one of them. But when you talk about, I mean, this idea went on my head, but I wanted to really bring it up. I think I'm going to move on. I
That's
really
okay,
want.
no worries.
There was something that you had just said, and it was really important. I'm going to move on and
No worries. If it
back to
comes
it.
back to you, we can come back
Yes,
to it.
exactly. So, in it's you've been working on this in your organization, and you've really focused on your culture. Would you be able to give me a quick example of something which is recent in terms of culture initiatives and its impact that you've seen?
Sure. This is an interesting take on one. So with this whole idea of what it means to be an owner, I just believe clarity is so important. When people understand what boundaries they're working within, you can be more successful. And a lot of people don't like constraints. People don't want to be told you can't do this or this isn't part of your job or part of what we're doing. But constraints are actually really powerful. They can create creativity. They allow you to really expand within a space or a framework that can be effective. And so, one of the things that we wanted to do was not just define what it means to be an owner, but what it doesn't mean to be an owner. And so, we worked with we have an employee experience council, which is made up of individual contributors and managers, no executive leaders on the employee experience council, and it's really the voice of our employees. And so, we worked with the EEC, we call it the Employee Experience Council, on developing what it doesn't mean to be an owner. So the executive management team gave them some guidelines and then said, "Hey, how is this going to resonate?" But we want people to understand, yes, it means to be an owner. When you speak up, you share your ideas, but it doesn't mean that you get to set strategy. It doesn't mean you get to be in charge of firing people. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
that you get to say no to policies that we have to put into place. But it
Yeah.
means that you can contribute, you can share your ideas, you can give your thoughts. And so we put together this whole framework around what it means to be an owner and what it doesn't mean to be an owner and do's and don'ts. And then we rolled it out. I made a video explaining it all.
Oh,
We rolled
wow.
the video out. We had the managers walk through their teams with it, and then I held town halls, so our employees could come in and ask questions about it, and I could give the context in a more personal way about why we did this and how having this type of understanding is really powerful for our employees. And I got so much positive feedback where at first people were like, "Well, I was kind of going to be mad that, well, what doesn't it mean to be an owner, and this is what
Right.
you can't do." But the
Right.
clarity was really helpful, and I
Yep.
understand what my role is now as an owner, not just from what it means, but from what it doesn't mean. And so this was, I think, really, really positive, and we're going to continue to build upon all of this going into 2026, really helping people understand their roles as owners in an employee-owned company so that they can feel successful and they can feel like they are part of things, but they also understand when they're not part of something and why that is. So that's a recent cultural program that we rolled out, and I think it was received positively. I know it
Right.
was received positively, even though some people initially had a negative connotation with it.
Right. I guess, I mean, with anything else, right? When you bring in something new, there's always a little bit of anxiety about
Yeah.
something new change coming in.
Yes.
I love the example that you gave of the Employee Experience
Yeah.
Council. Phenomenal. I will say something in a bit, but I repeat this almost every other episode that I have. I bring up the conversation about Erin Myers and the way she looks at, defines the organization as really being a tree and leadership being the root of that tree,
Yes.
providing exactly what you said, boundary and context.
Yes.
And the executive leadership and the managers are the branches and the trunk, and then the leaf is basically the value creators, the people who are out
Yes.
there doing the work. So these executives and managers also provide further clarity in terms
Yes.
of what it means. So
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly.
There's something else I mentioned. It's so hard to keep up with all the great stuff that you're seeing. I want to take notes, but at the same time, I want to listen as well. So, but thank you for sharing all of that. This is a
Yeah.
great initiative. Definitely, clarity is again, if I can guess and assume, you probably have very high employee engagement because they are aware
Mhm.
about what they need to be doing and what is expected of them. They have clarity and availability of resources to execute on what powers that they have in front of
Yes. Yes, absolutely. We have incredibly high engagement. We have a really interesting survey process that we measure engagement with. We've
them.
tried lots of different things over the years. And we used to put out like little pulse surveys, which were more like net promoter score, like how often, how likely would you recommend a friend to work at StoneAge? But we didn't get much from it. And then we would do twice a year big surveys where there was so much data, it would take us a month and a half to sift through. And then it was hard to take immediate action. And then I read this great book by a guy named Matt Tinney. I had him on my podcast, Reflect Forward. And his book is called Inspire Greatness. And he had this, what he calls these micro surveys. So there's 14 questions that measure how well managers are doing leading their teams. And so what we decided to do is every other month we ask two questions and then we do micro trainings around it so we can immediately get the feedback and then we can do training with the managers to address what the issues are. So whether it is, I feel like my manager doesn't trust me, or I don't feel like I have clarity in what my job is, or I don't have the tools I need to do my job. Whatever the question is, we can go in and immediately address it with training. And this has been so incredibly powerful because people see the results of their feedback. And that's the most important thing. If people
Yes.
are going to give feedback, they want to see that management is going to do something with it. And so now we're seeing the immediate results. We can go work with those managers who are getting lower engagement scores and really help give them some very specific training and support in those areas. So we score consistently over 95% in each of these questions.
Oh,
Maybe one or two have been like in the low 90s, upper 80s, which is like, great. Now we know where to
yeah.
go work. And then we just repeat those questions basically every 7 months. And that way we have a baseline score. And it's been really, really powerful. And sometimes we might add another question in if there's some specific thing that we want to get employees feedback on,
Yeah.
but it's actionable. It's easy to administer micro trainings with, and people can see the results of their feedback. So it's a great tool for engagement. I highly recommend leaders read that book. It's one of the best culture books that I've read, and this was something that we took out of it and implemented and see really positive results with.
Fantastic. I'm curious, have you guys looked at, I'm sure you probably did, the Gallup 12 questions? They're
Yeah,
pretty
yeah.
solid as well.
Yeah. Yeah, when I came to StoneAge almost 20 years ago, we actually revamped our performance review with the Gallup questions. And we did that for many years, and then it evolved over time. These questions that Matt has in his book are they're not the same, but they're woven into it.
Yeah.
And so it's really effective, but it's similar as in the 12 questions that Gallup
Right. I mean,
presents.
fantastic. Few things I would definitely say is I love I mean, many organizations obviously, and I hope I'm wrong, but I believe that they fail or they do not execute on employee engagement because they believe that they have done the survey, so it's enough. You've got to act on the surveys. You've
Yeah.
got to be, and you can't kill by, death by surveys. You don't want to do that. Obviously, you want to keep it
Yeah.
small, short. I really love the fact that you're executing on it with training. Like, yes, we see it. Now let's do the
Well,
training.
yeah.
Most importantly, the manager, the leader. The leader has a huge part in engagement of the team. So if we are able to train the manager, if we are able to give them the tools, the power to make the change, that's really impactful.
Yes, I agree. I agree. And middle management is so important. They're the ones who have the biggest impact in the company because they are managing most of the people, and they have to manage up their managers, they have to manage
Yeah,
with their peers, and they have to manage their teams. And
indeed.
so it's an incredibly difficult position, and I think that if you focus your training on middle management,
Yeah.
you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Mhm.
Just to share a little bit about the Spark plan, which is the employee engagement improvement plan, in 90 days, we focus on both the managers, the leaders, as well as the team. So it's not employee engagement just based on teams. You don't work on just your people. You also work on your leadership as well. So it's a
Mhm.
combination of it. In some of the activities, we do it weekly. The activities are both managers and leaders or employees together,
Yep,
and in fact, some of them includes the leadership as well.
absolutely. Yep,
So
absolutely.
what is the one major challenge that you faced recently or regarding your organizational culture, and how did you overcome it?
Yeah. I mean, hiring is so tough right now. Is we live in Our headquarters is in a small rural town on the western slope of Colorado,
Mhm.
and recruiting right now is challenging. And a lot of people want to hire for relief. Like, we just need a person. Let's hire for relief. And every time we hire for relief, it's a mistake. We
Yep.
have to hire for future capability building, and really helping managers understand the importance of that,
Yep.
speeding up the recruiting process so that we take out all of those points where we lose time has really been really important.
Right.
But helping people understand that hiring for relief is almost never going to get you what you want. Hiring for future capability building is what we're trying to do. So I think it's just addressing the challenges that we have to find good talent out there, and that kind of talent who can level up a position or two in the organization as we grow and evolve, and the time that it takes to find those people. And it can be really frustrating when you like,
Yes.
I need somebody now, but you don't just want a body. You want, especially in an employee owned company, we want
Yeah.
people who embody the own it mindset and who can grow with the company. So
Yeah.
I think that was a really big cultural challenge for us in 2025. And we saw some turnover because of it, from hiring for relief rather than hiring for capability building.
Yeah. And it's really important is that even if you hire an individual and if you are not, two are not fit, the individual is not fit for the organization and vice versa,
Right.
you're not really setting them up for a success, right? Or you're just hampering their growth as well because they are not, maybe the conditions aren't fit for that individual. and
Mm-hmm.
vice versa. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I know hiring is a huge challenge, especially I think in 2025. I see it all the time. Even I'm working in a nonprofit over there as well. Getting board members on board as well is like you have to know if the individual is part of the culture that we want to incorporate or see in the future as well and develop. So hiring
Yep.
is definitely a great challenge. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
What is one trend that you see shaping the future of organizational cultures?
I mean, probably everybody gives this answer, but the adoption of AI, I think that AI is going to be incredibly disruptive, difficult, transformative, exciting. It's going to be all of the things. We're going to feel all of the emotions, and it's going to dramatically change the way that we work. And that's going to happen over the next 5 years. I think it's hard for people to wrap their minds around. Certainly, there are some organizations who have embraced it and who are doing it well. I would say we're probably in the middle of the pack. We've embraced it and we're rolling it out slowly.
Mm,
We want to make sure that it's impactful, that we don't waste a bunch of money doing things that don't matter or aren't going to work.
mm,
And we want to bring our employees along. But I see that people are going to be working side by side with AI
mm,
and it's going to change the way we work. It's going to change how we look at work. It's going to change what we value with work
mm,
when machines and computers can do so many things better than humans can. We
mm.
are going to have to evolve. And
Yeah.
so those people who are adaptable and those people with soft skills are going to be very important. Relationships are going to matter so much in the future. And so we have to be, as leaders, we have to be preparing our people for how their roles are going to change, what types of skills they're going to need in the future. And I
Mm,
think we're going to have to prepare for a lot of jobs going away. Certainly new jobs will be created, but when, an AI can do the job of 25 people, you're not going to find different jobs in the organization for those 25 people.
yeah.
So I think we are about to go through a very big period of disruption, and it's going to cause a lot of cultural issues as companies have to evolve to address the changes that are going to come with it.
No, absolutely. You're spot on. Everything that you said is exactly how it's going to be and how it's
Mhm.
already shaping up. There's something that majority, I think I see the statistics all the time. I'm not sure how true it is the fact that the AI adoption is not really successful for a lot of
Yeah.
organizations. And the main core is that they're not focusing on the people side of
Yes.
aspects of things
Yes.
and how to
Yeah.
deal with the people. One crucial point that you raised for the organizations or to grow their culture to become to be in a place where they can adapt to the rapid changes of space of technology, we need to focus on the people soft skills. That's
Yes.
very crucial point. And I
Huge.
love the fact that you brought it up because I wrote about it recently, and it's like you need to have a growth mindset for our
Mhm.
people. And when it talks about growth mindset, we're not really specifically speaking about AI skills in terms of you need to understand how AI works or how you can use AI. It could be anything. It really is talking about the fact that we are looking at people to be growing their skills from maybe even new hobby, maybe even learning a new language or an instrument for music. All of that is going to make an impact in the future for the organization to be in a place where it's
Yes.
adaptable to new
Yes.
changing technology. Soft skill is something which everyone has started talking about, the fact that this become really important.
Yeah.
And I think you pointed on a very important aspect of it. And I speak about it all the time. I follow this gentleman called Edgar H. Sheehan. Sadly, he's no more, but he's a notable authority on organizational culture.
Mhm.
He's done seminal work on it. And he speaks about 4 levels of relationships. What and I concur with him, and I feel a lot about it is the fact that we need to move to level 2, organize our relationships. And basically level 0 is jailer and jailer. There's no trust. Level 1 is transactional, how
Mhm.
Americans we don't we as Americans do business. Level 2 is where you trust me, I trust you, you've got my back, I've got your back. We are in this together. And then the fourth one is, of course, level 3 is intimate relationships with spouse, family, etc. But level 2 is what's going to allow us to be able
Yeah.
to place where we can adapt, we can grow, we don't. we are more resilient actually as well.
I agree with you completely. And I think this is the work that leaders need to do. This is the work as all individuals, but we as
Mm.
leaders set the tone. And and I do agree with you. I think that we've been too transactional and we everything that we do comes from a collective wound, trauma wound, right?
Mm.
We're protecting ourselves. And that's why things are transactional. Like I for me to win, somebody has to lose. I can't be vulnerable because someone's going to use that against me. I
Yeah.
have to constantly prove myself because if I don't, then somebody's going to think that I'm not a good leader, right? We all have these insecurities that we come with whatever our wound is. I believe the collective human wound comes from the foundation of I am not enough. And how that manifests itself is in many different ways of fear of abandonment, fear of failure,
Yeah.
all these different things, fear of being too much. But if we start to really look inside and say, where is this fear coming from and where does this wound come from? And how do I heal myself? So
Yes.
that way I can love, I can trust, I can be vulnerable, I can be transparent. I can lead from this different place. It comes back to us remembering who we are, which is pure potential. Like we're just all energy. We're pure potential. And how we show up in our identity and our mindset is how our potential is activated, which right now, quite frankly, is coming from a pretty negative place, a fear based place. So if we as leaders do that inner work and we understand where our insecurities that come from and why that's causing us to do things in this protect and defend mode, if we can heal those and release it, allows us to be able to show up in those trust-based relationships with care, with love.
Yeah.
I just had a conversation with one of my employees. He is a sales leader in my company, and he told me, he said, I just have such a different relationship with you as a CEO because you're so real. Like some
Mm.
of the conversations that we have was like, I would never imagine having this with a CEO. And I was like, because CEO, those are just three letters behind my name. It's just a title. I'm a human being. And wouldn't you rather know me as a human being than as this facade that I'm putting on as, what a CEO should look like? And he was like, yeah, it makes working here so much better. But that's because I've done that work to heal my wound of not being enough. And so not feeling like I have to put on a facade or overperform or prove myself constantly. I did a lot of that through my years. This is certainly is something that has evolved over time. But
Yes.
man, if we can do that, then we can get to those level 2 and those level 3 relationships because those level 3, those highly intimate relationships, that is what the human experience is about.
Yeah. Again, this conversation is amazing. I appreciate it. So I probably have so much to say, but again, self-awareness, so important.
Yeah.
Emotional intelligence, so important for
Yep.
organizations to have a generative culture. I appreciate that. I had so much more. I keep, I keep listening and I'm like, oh, I want to say this as well, but then I'm like, let me listen more. So, great. I'm going to probably re-listen to this conversation and I'm like, I wanted to say this as well. So fantastic. What is one piece of advice that you would give leaders fostering a positive generative organizational culture?
I mean, I want to go back to self awareness. I think that self awareness is everything. Like, you cannot do anything in changing culture, in changing yourself, your leadership, inspiring others, unless you understand yourself. And so, if your culture needs to change, if you want to improve your culture, start with yourself first. Understand how you're showing up, how you're setting the tone for your team or your company. Understand your wound. Understand how what you identify with, right? Those mental loops that we run in our head
Yes.
that hold us back,
Yes.
how that is impacting your organization.
Yeah.
If you do that work, then it makes it so much easier to make the organizational change. But if you're not willing to do that work and then you look at your organizations like, oh, well, we have to make these changes because the culture isn't great, we don't have engaged employees, you
Yeah.
have to look at yourself first. You
Yeah.
can't expect people to change if you're not willing to do that work too. So that would be my advice is to go inward, to really do the analysis, understand yourself, understand those mental loops, understand the identity that you are showing up with every day. And if you want to change your organization, look at yourself first.
Absolutely spot on. And I remembered what I wanted to speak as well, but I want to put a point out again what you mentioned about the mental models, the loops that
Mhm.
allows you to
Mhm.
make decisions in your life. Getting to know who you are and getting to know why you do things the way you do would
Yes.
actually help in that. And if I may just touch a little bit about organizational culture as a definition, it's really actually the shared mental models
Yes.
of that group
Yes.
as it solves its problems. of
Yes.
external and internal, etc. So it's the shared mental models. And if you recall in the beginning of the conversation as well, I mentioned the dynamic part of the organizational culture is these shared mental models.
Hmm.
These, once you know what your organizational culture is, which is
Yeah.
basically getting to understand your shared mental models, you can understand what are the positive parts and what are the negative
Yeah.
or the ones that hold you back. So having that information, you can use the positive mental models to bring about culture transformation in
Yes.
organizations. And that's actually how, I mean, as a culture consultant, that's how I go about making these
Yeah.
changes.
I agree with you completely.
I wanted to, and I want to go back to the point that I remembered. You said something about your salespeople having a great conversation with you, and you realize that how they find you so authentic. They know that you're not putting up a mask, and that's exactly how organizations need to be. And in fact, just not need to be. It's
Yeah.
actually how they are. So there are
Yes.
two parts of an organization. There's a formal organization. We have a set of roles and responsibilities, coordination, etc. We have a blueprint of how we need to act. And guess what? Humans don't just do this formal part of it. There is an informal part of us, is basically the informal organization, which is I will speak to you as my, like, if not you as a CEO, but assuming you're my peer or my colleague or whoever, I'm speaking to you as a human being and I'm maybe sharing gripes, maybe sharing some other aspects of my life or etc. I bring that to the organization, and the psychological problems that we face in organizations is actually because of the combination of the formal organization and the informal organizations.
Yes.
As long as soon as we accept that there is an informal organization, that we are humans, we are going to act like this, we can understand how can we change the environment so that we can focus on what we can do to create that place where people bring their best, bring themselves, the authentic self, and not just put a mask, and they're not going to act well in that situation. And you're not going
No.
to get best productivity from
And people see through it. I mean, I think I read a study once that I think only like 4 in 10 employees say that the culture matches what leadership says the culture is. So there's a
Right.
huge disconnect. And I think that's because leaders put on this mask
Hmm.
and, this is how we are. And that causes them to put their head in the sand because they're not getting real about what's going on within the organization and dealing with it. And so then there's this disconnect. And so then leaders are thinking like, oh yeah, this mask is working. This is this identity that we have in our minds is the identity of the company that everybody else feels, and it's actually
Yes.
really not the case. Most employees are like, that's BS. It's not actually like that. So I think that's really powerful. I actually shared that statistic in one of my keynotes that I give. I talk about how to turn paycheck players into high performers, and because I've heard so many people say, "Oh, my culture isn't like this." I'm like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Because even I have it. Like, I see our culture at StoneAge is not how everybody else experiences it, and I
Yeah.
get that. And
Yeah.
we work hard to minimize that. That's the reality. We all are experiencing our realities through our lenses, and it's
Yes.
really important to remember that. So I don't kid myself to say that everybody loves our culture and it works for everyone and that there's not room for improvement because there is.
Yeah.
But I certainly don't. I certainly walk the walk and talk the talk as much as I possibly can, considering that I also have everybody else's individual experiences, thoughts, belief system, mental loops, patterns that they're running that collectively make up the culture too. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's really important for leaders to drop that mask and quit kidding themselves that it's somehow better than what it really is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think when you were speaking and I was thinking about this as well, I wanted to share this. Uh, Organizational culture is different depending on where you're looking from. So for each individual, it's different. Again, it's also different because of their human stages of development. A young gentleman or lady would have a different perspective of the organization, whereas a tenured person would actually have a different perspective of it because they've gone through it. And then the organization, there are three levels. Again, I'm referring to Edgar's model. It's like a pyramid if you think about it. At the very top of the water, there's the artifacts.
Yes.
The way we dress, the way we talk to each other, the way we talk to our customers, etc. Everything that you can hear, feel, and see. That's your organizational culture's artifacts. Below that, and this is where you were trying to say, is that whatever we aspire to be, not necessarily we have it in our organization. So below that artifact level is the aspired values and beliefs.
Yes.
This is what we want to be. And this is our ideology. This is our philosophy of an organization. And at the very bottom of the water of the of the iceberg is basically your shared mental models. And then there's
Yeah.
obviously the difference gap between the artifacts are totally different from what our shared mental models are. And this is our aspiration. So where's the gap and stuff? As an organizational culture, this is what I would use to figure out what is different, what's the gap, where's the gap, and what do we use to bring about the transformation. So of
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having aspirational values or
course,
aspirational vision. I mean, that's how we grow and change. What
yes,
leaders get wrong in why they fail to achieve that aspiration is they aren't real about those real mental models that are running the organization. They are not helping people rewrite those mental models, and they're not putting the
yes,
systems in place then to change the behaviors, right? I
yes,
mean, let's our thoughts create our identity creates our behaviors, and our systems reinforce our behaviors.
yes,
And so, as leaders, we need to really understand that if we're trying to make some big organizational change so that we can live up to our aspirational values, we have to understand that, again, thoughts create identity, identity creates behaviors, behaviors are reinforced by the system. You
yes.
have to address each one of those if you really want to change.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Structures influence
Yeah.
behaviors. That's absolutely true. And I
Hmm.
think I wanted the earlier part, which I had forgotten very early on in the conversation, was and you mentioned something about each of us work and we interact and we make a difference. Ideas can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
It's basically systemic thinking,
Yeah.
and that's one part of culture change or transformation that I propose to our client. My client is all about you. We've got to teach our team to become learning organizations to understand that there is non-linear. The world is non-linear. Businesses are non-linear. They're not linear. They're not straight lines. They're all over
Hmm.
the gap places. So systemic thinking is one of the things that I teach as organizations go. Powerful, way powerful conversation. Thank you for
Yeah, it's
sharing
been a
all
lot of
these.
fun. Thank you. This has been fabulous. I love talking about. I can talk about this stuff all day. It's my favorite thing to do. It's why I love giving keynotes and helping businesses, like very much like what you do. It's fun to be able to talk to like-minded people who want to make a difference
Exactly.
and really understand the psychological dynamics, the energetic dynamics of an organization, because all of that is there. It's not just the strategy, the tasks, the execution, right? There's all of the feelings, the emotions, the identities, the behaviors, those loops, life that is what actually makes the organization come together.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something. It's yeah. Uh, the world's changing. People like you and I, we're helping to
Yes.
bring in this change. It's going to lock in,
Yep.
and then we're going to have totally different kind of organizations and societies. I'm all for that for sure.
Yep. Me
Let's
too.
take a switch and switch over to rapid fire questions.
Yep.
And please share, what book do you recommend the most?
Good strategy, bad strategy. I am such a believer in it for building out a great strategy. It's how I run my strategy. And I just read it again and just made sure that our strategic plan was aligned with it. And I love that book. It's so freaking good.
I have it. You would. I don't know if I could share. I have my books over
Yes,
here.
all your books. Uh-huh.
All my books, but and these are just the physical copies and stuff. I have
Yeah.
like digital. I read like digital copies. I have Audible. I have physical copies.
Yeah.
Sometimes all three of just one book. Anytime you can do that. I still have to read that one.
It's
I'll
so good.
yeah,
Put
yeah.
it to the top of your list. It's great. I know, I know, I know, I
Right
know.
now, in fact, I'm doing these two books. If I can share these, like the organizational design. This is
Uh-huh.
my one of my very cool books, and then by Edgar H. Sheehan, another one which is organizational
Yeah.
psychology. So
Well, you should read my book. Add my book to your list, The Ownership Mindset.
ownership minds.
It Yeah, like, that's like my whole philosophy on organizational design. It's not nearly as scientific as those 2 books, but this is like, in the trenches
Yes,
CEO. I
practical
mean, I
stuff.
started out as an inexperienced CEO at the age of 30 and, like, had to build this organization. So, anyway, you check out my book too.
Sweet. Yeah,
You
no,
can listen to it on
absolutely.
Audible.
Thank you. I'm gonna put up when I post about this series, this episode, I'm gonna share that link for the
Thank you.
audience as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh gosh, I'm such an open book. I think people would be surprised to learn about me that I actually, even though have built a life driven on driving outcomes, success, drive, that I really like to go with the flow. I am so much more of a go with the flow person. And certainly as I get older, I don't want to have to be in charge of everything and make all the decisions and take care of everything all the time and be the leader all the time. Sometimes I want to be led.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to be taken care of. And I'm just good with going with the flow.
Yeah.
So I think that that might surprise people because I am so driven and I am a disruptive CEO and I'm pushing boundaries all of the time. But yeah, I like to go with the flow. Actually, as the older I get, the more I like to go with the flow than I do to drive outcomes.
Hey, I mean, you think about it, the more we resist or we try to push, the system is going to push back at us. So
Exactly.
go with the flow, be a river, go around the obstacles and get to I think that's great life. Uh,
Yes.
Lastly, how can our listeners connect with you?
They can find me. LinkedIn is definitely my most prolific social media. I post on LinkedIn almost every single day. You can go to my website, kerrysiggins.com. That's where you can learn about the book. I have a second book that's coming out in the summer of 26 called Talk with Trust. My podcast, Reflect Forward, is there. You can also find it on YouTube. That's where most people watch it, is on YouTube. It's also on every podcast platform, but all that information is on my website. If you're interested in finding out about more about StoneAge, you can go to StoneAge Tools website as well. I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all of that, but LinkedIn is probably the best place to follow me.
Fantastic. Well, this has been such a great conversation, so powerful, so many great points that my audience is able to take in and hopefully utilize in their organizations and create people-centric cultures. So
Yes.
thank you, Kerry. I really appreciate your insights and the powerful conversation you've shared with us today.
Thank you. This has been so much fun. It was such a fun interview. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And there you go, folks. Another episode of Culture8 Podcast. And if you want to listen more, please subscribe to us at Spotify or on YouTube. Thank you.